Well, the bent pyramid is a tourist attraction today, and millions of people walk inside of the bent
Yeah.
pyramid every single day. And there's not really any reinforcement on the inside of it. So, and with at least the pyramid of Maidun, there's these substructures and structures that are under the ground that people have questioned. Okay, are these really 2600, 2700 BC during the time of Senefru, or do some of these are some of these structures that aren't that the outer structure is built on top of, are these even more ancient? How far back in time do these really go? That's really like a specific niche of research
Mm.
that guys like Uncharted X or the Brothers of the Serpent will do. In fact, the Brothers of the Serpent, they gave a brilliant lecture on this the other day called Finished. I don't know if it's come out. They had a great lecture series called Unfinished, and now they have one called Finished, and it's analyzing pyramid construction.
Danny had a
Um,
great podcast with those guys
they're
in January.
they are brilliant, and
Yeah.
I'll call it right now. One day when the sun sets on the great Graham Hancock's, Randall Carlson's, like Robert Schock, Brothers of the Serpent, just they're going to be some of the guys that rise up. Like on the next sunrise, they're going to be there. These are brilliant guys who really really know a lot, and I feel like they take a very similar approach to me, and they're very sober. Um, so they gave a great presentation on the different layers of the Maidun pyramid and how some of these things might be older, and they are experts in just that little specific thing. They're experts in a lot of things, but that specific thing in Egypt, they've really grown to know a lot about. So there's this contentious idea that he's trying to build the perfect pyramid. It doesn't work out at Maidun, and then he tries again at the bent pyramid, and the lower 60% of the pyramid is built too steep, and the pyramid's going to be way too tall for them to one way or another, it's going to be way too tall for them to feasibly be able to do it. So they change the angle, and it flattens out at the top, and then for some reason it just isn't right. I don't know why. The traditional, this is another thing that I think is really silly with Egyptology, is they explain it and they go, the bent pyramid was not stable enough. It was not well built. The interior chambers were unstable, so they stopped construction on it, and they built the red pyramid. Well, the bent pyramid is a tourist attraction today, and millions of people walk inside of the bent pyramid every single day, and there's not really any reinforcement on the inside of it. So how does that make sense in the Egyptological mind, that this is a structure that is not stable, and yet at least 5,000 years later, it's a tourist site that millions of people walk through every day? Like, are they not worried about liability? It doesn't make any sense. I guess another thing that sort of traps the bent pyramid within a certain time frame as well, which I finally got to see them. I was really looking forward to seeing them, are in what they call the burial chamber. What's really interesting about the burial chamber is that there's no sarcophagus in it. Don't know how I have no idea how
a burial chamber without a sarcophagus.
That's what they title it, the burial chamber, which is the same thing that they did in the red pyramid, but in neither of them was there actually a sarcophagus found inside of it.
How convenient or inconvenient, depending on how you look at it.
It is truly bizarre. But the bent pyramid is kind of trapped in a certain time frame because there are cedars of Lebanon that are built into the wall, and I finally got to see them. And on photos, these cedars look like they might be, like 4 or 5 feet long, because you have no perception of how big these chambers are. These cedars are as 18 feet across, just like this room, and there's got to be a dozen of them or so, and they look like that they are a stand to a platform. There's once a wooden platform on top of it. These cedars of Lebanon are built into the wall, and there's no way to get them inside of the pyramid, other than when the pyramid was being constructed, they were laid in, and then they built the rest of the pyramid on top of it. When you carbon date those cedars, they're about 4,700 BC. So, it kind of has locked the pyramid into a certain time frame, and there's not a way around that. It's just not. That's just the hard truth.
And there's no possible way they could have been.
No. No. They're giant cedars inside of the pyramid.
Yep.
And it's locked that pyramid in there. And that's something that a lot of YouTubers, they know that their audience isn't going to love hearing that. And so they ignore that.
They're incentivized against it.
It's a very, very real reality, a real concrete reality. And if you ever go visit the Bent Pyramid and you're honest with yourself, those cedars lock that pyramid into a certain date. But for some reason, the traditional Egyptological timeline says Senefru thought this one wasn't good enough, so they built the Red Pyramid, which is just, a mile or so away. And then you go in the Red Pyramid. It's got 3 chambers with these huge granite stones lining the walls. But when you get to the final chamber, the entire floor is ripped out like 10 feet deep. And the reason that is, and that was done in modern times, like within the last 150 years, they ripped it all out because when they made their way back to the final chamber, they didn't find a sarcophagus in there. It was a completely empty room. And they thought, okay, there's got to be another chamber nearby that's cut off. Let's, they thought that maybe it was a trick, that the Egyptians, they tricked tomb robbers into thinking that, this was the whole pyramid. There's nothing else. So they start ripping up the floor and, quarrying out the walls, and they expanded this chamber looking for any adjoining chambers, and they never found anything. So, this is this really strange area in Egyptology where you have these 3 pyramids attributed to a pharaoh. Nowhere on the inside of the pyramids are there any hieroglyphs. There's no cartouches, which a cartouche is like, it's your signature. It's your signature. Yeah. Like when you sign a check, that's your signature. A cartouche is the sacred signature of a pharaoh. Only the pharaoh, later on in Egyptian civilization, other people start getting cartouches, which is not a good thing for Egypt because other people start getting as powerful as the pharaoh is. But really, the pharaoh has a cartouche, and that's his sacred name. It's the sacred encircling of his name. And they don't find that anywhere in the pyramids. How do you explain that? I don't know how you explain it.
I don't know if you do.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe one day it will be explained. But it's this huge, huge blind spot in Egyptology that Egyptologists can't explain. It's never been properly explained, and I've really never seen it addressed. Like I've never seen a bona fide Egyptologist get on a YouTube video and say, "Here's why there's no hieroglyphs inside the pyramids," when they're all around the pyramid complex.
Well, aliens didn't use hieroglyphics.
That's probably true.
So, well, actually, and some people like to say they did, but they didn't like them in their pyramids.
Yeah.
That's the thing. They're like, we want plain pyramids. We want them just straight up to the sky. No hieroglyphics, no bullshit. That's graffiti.
It's tacky, right?
Yeah, it's very tacky.
You don't want it inside the pyramid.
Want that. How far back do hieroglyphics go, by the way? Do we know?
About 3200 BC, 3300 BC. They've up in the eastern mountains in southern Egypt, they found these hieroglyphs that show a scorpion. And they think that it is the earliest depictions of a pharaoh's cartouche. And so, the movie Scorpion King with The Rock?
I was just going to say, 2002, Michael Clark Duncan, The Rock, yes. I'm in, baby.
That's what the Scorpion King, the name for that comes from Egypt. The movies have nothing to do with the Scorpion King, the real Scorpion King of Egypt. And
really?
Yeah, it's sad,
I love
right?
that movie.
They're not even based in Egypt. The first Scorpion King isn't even based in Egypt. It's in the Middle East somewhere, like modern day Israel.
Better. It was a better ambiance.
I guess so.
Better background.
I guess so.
These are semantics.
Yeah.
All right. You got to just have fun.
I'm working on a movie review series for my YouTube, and I did a review on only ancient history movies. This is gonna be called Big Screen History, and then I'm working on another one right now reviewing like bad movies, which I might just scrap Big Screen Histories. But there's a series I'm working on this for bad historical movies based in ancient history called Historiable, and I do the
like deplorable.
Yeah.
That's good.
Or horrible history or history horrible. Historiable,
yeah.
and so I do a review of the Scorpion King, and it's just like me being astonished at how much it has absolutely nothing to do with the actual Scorpion King. Sure. Okay. It's a good movie.
It's a great movie. Thank you for watching the video, guys. If you haven't already subscribed, please smash that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.